Child of Light is a game I don't think I would have ever found on my own. Certainly not without incentive, and definitely not something I ever thought I'd play myself. For the longest time, it was just another game I'd see around the Nintendo eShop once in a while. I think I looked at it once or twice, but it never left a lasting impression. However, I did have it in the back of my mind because of those few times, and as time passed, I found that little memory becoming more and more important. This really came ahead when Bloodstained's new DLC character was revealed. Lo and behold, Aurora and her little friend Igniculus from the 2014 Ubisoft RPG, Child of Light. At first, I really didn't know what to make of this information. I had a few characters in mind I thought it could be when the developers hinted about it, but this was a game I had no experience with or attachment to, only those fuzzy memories from vaguely checking out the title. Once the gameplay trailer came out the next day though, I told myself I had to play Aurora's game before Ritual of the Night. It was so apparent they were taking moves and attributes from Child of Light and plopping them right into the Metroidvania style, and I wanted to appreciate all of it. Luckily, making my Bloodstained video last time left me at the perfect opportunity once it was finished, as I checked the eShop to find the definitive edition on sale for $5. Playing Child of Light felt like a cozy, sometimes scary, but most of the time wondrous lucid dream. The whole experience is swimming in this slow watercolor aesthetic that immediately establishes its own identity, and one that resonated with me right when the prologue finished. The bedtime story fairy tale style is also always there during major story scenes, but what really cements it is the dialogue. At first I was super confused why the text boxes were structured with the text in the middle with so much space on the sides, and then I realized, holy shit, these are all poems. Rhymes, hymes, each time is a different chime. It was so unexpected, and it kind of blew me away with how much charm the characters offered through this style. It's like this for the whole game, and I never got tired of it. The dreamlike fairy tale presentation is one this game commits to, and while I don't think it will be for everyone, if it is, I think it's something you'll adore. The chapters, characters, art style, animation, all expertly executed, and I bet will prove to be timeless, holding up years from now and not having aged a day. It is using the same engine that Rayman Legends was built on, so that does explain a lot. Like Rayman, the game feels incredible, but that's only when you gain the main ability this game offers, the ability to fly. Flying in Child of Light is something I knew was coming, but I didn't realize how much it would affect the gameplay until I was using it. Once I was soaring through the air, I realized this is also a Metroidvania. I never expected it to be, but once the world opened up that much, secrets, items, and enemies at every corner, Aurora's inclusion in Bloodstained immediately made sense. I was enjoying the game up to that point, but once you take flight, it's impossible to go back to the slow running. Such a rewarding turning point in the game that immediately made me a fan. It reminded me a lot of Nights, not only the dreamlike aesthetic, but also the general feeling of flying, fluid but rhythmic. Not to mention following lines of orbs both characters will frequently be doing. But this is only part of Child of Light's gameplay. While the beautiful Metroidvania style exploration ties this game together, I feel its personality really shows in its combat. I know I haven't had the chance to express it on the channel, but I am a huge RPG fan. It's my second favorite genre of games, and Child of Light understands how to make that old school combat new and alive. This is a fast-paced, weighty system where you feel every hit, every spell, every cast, all in the rush to interrupt your opponents before they can even land a hit on you. The animations are incredible, and the depth of the combat is super simple but intuitive. A lot of that coming from Igniculus. This little guy is the absolute GOAT. What he does is basically slow down enemies using his meter, allowing you to dictate the pace of combat if you play it smart. It's so rewarding in the heat of the moment trying to outspeed enemies. Manipulating the turn order is something that will be common. It's strategic but straightforward, and also customizable to your playstyle. And hey man, I'm a fan of Xenoblade 2 combat, so maybe take my RPG preferences with a grain of salt, but it's so fun and extremely satisfying, especially in the more difficult fights. I found almost every aspect of this game engaging to my preferences, but what really made it stick with me was the story. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I do want to express how it made me feel. The beginning is haunting. It sets the tone effortlessly, and really made it come across like Aurora's trapped in this afterlife purgatory known as Lemuria. The mystery in the beginning is constantly looming, even sometimes literally, and I felt motivated to unravel the lore of Aurora's past and this fairy tale prison she finds herself in. As the story progresses, it becomes more hopeful as she finds friends, clues, and powers. The whole middle chunk of the game was definitely the most consistent, and I felt it was where the game really did most everything it wanted to. However, the last 30% of the narrative left me a little unsatisfied. A lot of questions don't get answered, a lot of history in the world ends up being left to interpretation, and unfortunately the climax feels very rushed. It's not a bad ending, I actually thought it was heartwarming, but something is absolutely missing to get to that point. The game is short and does not overstay its welcome, which is good. I enjoy my 200-hour RPGs as much as the next guy, but for this one specifically, I appreciate the devs knowing what they wanted to make. They did something new and ambitious without overstuffing it with nonsense we see in a lot of AAA games today. Child of Light is not trying to appeal to everyone, and that's one of its strongest strengths. However, there are a lot of elements of the world, gameplay, and story that are just begging to be expanded upon further. While a sequel is not 100% necessary, it is something that would be so badass. For those of you who've been in the game, I think you know what I'm referring to. The potential and content is there, but unfortunately, Ubisoft hasn't been interested in the IP since it came out, and that is such a shame after playing it. Well, that is until recently, of course. Aurora's adventure would continue, but not in the way anyone expected, for better or worse. If Child of Light finds Aurora trapped in a dreamlike purgatory, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night finds her trapped in a hell nightmare, in more ways than one. The oppressive atmosphere of this game leads to a constant feeling of danger in a way Aurora's game doesn't really convey, with the tones of the two experiences clashing as they feel like night and day. Don't get me wrong, Child of Light has moments of helplessness, dread, and even loss, but Bloodstained's gameplay formula presents a sense of evil at every corner more so than Child of Light. It's not bad, it's just different, and I think that goes to show how well they made Aurora in this game because it feels like she literally came right from her story, which is also the intention in her narrative through this mode. Yeah, her route in Bloodstained, for all intents and purposes, acts as a sequel to Child of Light in a very, very loose manner, mind you. Playing these two games back to back, I felt like I experienced a whole odyssey with these characters, and Aurora's journey from one setting to another was what I was looking forward to the most. And because I came straight from Child of Light, I think my expectations were a lot higher than they should have been. But I was ready to see what Bloodstained would do with the material. What I played was not what I expected, but it was clear this little mode in my favorite Castlevania spiritual successor was a love letter to Child of Light. Right from the beginning, it's clear her mode is more ambitious than all of the other bonus playable characters, but I find myself looking at Castlevania for comparison. In that series, the best bonus modes are one that go the extra mile, like Julius mode in Dawn of Sorrow because it ties into the bad ending, and acts as an homage to Castlevania 3, or dare I say, yes I'm gonna say it and you can't stop me, sorry, Sisters mode in Portrait of Ruin for providing a completely unique gameplay style and acting as a prequel to the main game. These are both experiences that would most likely be paid DLC today, but both of them are completely free and hold up really well. Yes, I like Sisters mode, watch these two videos, leave me alone. Anyway, I bring this up because Aurora's mode here is on par with the best of Castlevania's, not only in scale and uniqueness, but also being completely free DLC at no additional cost, and I think that's worth keeping in mind while playing. Obviously that doesn't exempt it from criticism, but it is extremely generous and consumer friendly. I mean, it's now a pretty big selling point to buy Ritual of the Night as a whole, so I think it works out for everyone, except for Nintendo Switch players. At least right now, I'm so sorry for you guys. With that being said, the beginning isn't the best first impression. The story is fun, but it's not presented as anything fancy. They do keep the rhyming, which is incredible. I'm so happy they did. It's not Child of Light without it, but the story beats are shown on this dull, boring brown paper. Every single time, it just feels like something is missing, and the solution, in my opinion, would have been some artwork for these scenes. I think I'm asking a lot, but come on, look at this. What I had in mind was something similar to what plays at the end of Classic mode. I think that would have gone a long way, even without the movement, but ignoring the presentation of the story, it basically acts as a retread of Child of Light to regain Aurora's powers and free her friends from a curse that turns them into Bloodstained assets. No joke. The only one who's spared from the Bloodstained asset curse is the homie Igniculus, who basically acts as a familiar this time around. It felt the most appropriate using him for my playthrough, and I'm glad I did, although he doesn't talk at all, which is pretty out of character. Yeah, another side effect of the curse is that Aurora's friends don't talk, which, I don't know, it would have been fun to see and it's a little disappointing. If it wasn't apparent already, there are aspects all throughout this mode that feels incomplete or weird. Aurora's models, her hair, Johannes, and I guess story interactions in general. No no voice acting, which I understand but shows a sense of very limited budget. And to nitpick super hard, the missing number at the corner of the screen at all times missing your level. In Child of Light, this is what it looks like. It's an RPG, so it's not uncommon to want to see your level constantly, but it's just gone in Bloodstained. It's not a big deal. I think they just forgot this icon, but I hope they add your level number in an update. Even with all this in mind, however, the core of Bloodstained's gameplay absolutely carries this mode, as they did a great job with everything else. Aurora is super fun to play, and I thought they did a great job translating her character and moveset from Child of Light. Her mode is progression based, so you can't go crazy from the start like with Zangetsu, but this means you'll be collecting upgrades throughout like with Miriam. I found her playstyle to be passive defensive, with emphasis on looking for openings and playing around bosses with Light Ray, which of course is even further built upon when you gain the power of flight. Flying is different but feels responsive, and is a good way to adapt it to an action RPG like this, although admittedly I did prefer it in Child of Light. I played on hard mode, so I was happy to make full use of her moveset and abilities, but I did find my preference in this build, if any of you are curious. I am a fighting game addict too, so I found the use of her parry a really good inclusion, especially when you're cornered, and of course being a reference to her counterattack ability from her skill tree. Speaking of which, these references, oh my god. The upgrades, which I won't spoil, story elements, poses, recruitment callbacks, the rhyming everywhere to everyone, and the endings, which I found to be pretty in line with the fairy tale vibe all throughout my experience with these two games. It's clear that probably everyone who worked on this mode played Child of Light and made this a loving tribute to that game. While it certainly has its problems, I think fans of the game are going to really like what they did here, and vice versa for Bloodstained players. My main critique with this mode is if you haven't played Bloodstained's main route with Miriam, it might be super daunting to try this different gameplay because most everything is not being explained, as the game assumes you've played the main story at least once. You could still get by without it, but it is going to be more confusing. Just keep that in mind if you want to jump straight into Aurora's mode when getting Ritual of the Night. As for my complete journey with these two titles back to back, my whole experience with them was absolutely fantastic overall. Child of Light took me 3 days to beat playing on and off, with Aurora's mode and Bloodstained also taking the same. So that whole week for me was pretty... oh, what's the word? Cohesive, I guess. This little series, I don't know if I can call it that with one game and one collab, but I'm going to. It was something I didn't really know I wanted, and now that I've completed it, I would recommend checking out either title if they caught your interest. Ubisoft doesn't seem to be interested in Child of Light as I said earlier, but with Bloodstained's great tribute and continuation, I feel deep within my heart that this game could have an absolute banger sequel, definitively concluding the tale of Aurora's journey. I loved my time with these two games, and I hope you enjoyed my review / retrospective of my journey finding this wonderful title. Now, I know what you're thinking. Whoa, Stocke, a video where you don't gush about Castlevania for 20 minutes straight? What's going on? And I appreciate you asking, you handsome W. And no worries, next time, we'll be returning to a certain demonic hell war that just happened to coincide the same year Star Wars The Phantom Menace came out. And I know that might sound oddly specific, but this video was as inevitable as the solar eclipse. Okay, I'll stop. Next time is Demon Castle War Part 2, guys. I must redact my sins of this damn video. I can't believe I got those fucking ages wrong, oh my god. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Or don't, but if you want to support the channel, hit all the buttons down there. As a great man once said, take care of yourselves, and of course, as usual, please have yourself a damn good one. Take care, guys.